You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA legends, pros, and top instructors come to share their stories, insights, and tips. Now, back to you, Chris.
And now back with me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is Scott Lehman, and let me remind you about Scott's background. He started out his career in the sports apparel industry working for a surfing company out in San Diego. Went back to school in 1998 and became certified by the United States Golf Teachers Federation to be a teaching professional. He's written or co-written a couple of wonderful books, The Golfer's Bible and More Than a Game, Finding Life's Answers Through Golf. He is now the founder and president of In His Grip Golf, and I am very thrilled Scott is back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Scott, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, good evening, Chris. It's a privilege to be with you, and it was awesome to listen to you and Mark, especially watching your natural gifts come out. You're in your sweet spot, Chris. Great to connect with you again.
I appreciate you very much, Scott. So, Scott, I want to start off by talking about some of the great things that you've got going on. Boy, as I've been taking a look at your Twitter feed, as I've been looking at your website, you have so many wonderful events coming up over there in Nashville. And one of the things that I think is absolutely very cool is the Celebrity Pro-Am tournament you're doing next month at Topgolf. Talk about what that's all about.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, Chris, we did a Celebrity Pro-Am at Vanderbilt Legends Club. And what we found is to do an all day and a night before with a gala, it's very time consuming, and it's really hard to get the celebrities and pros to do that year after year. So we took a few years off from that model, and we started a Topgolf Celebrity Pro-Am, and it's a Tuesday night. It's about 3 hours, and we just found that the celebs that came last year loved it, and they all renewed for this year. And the pros loved it. It was just a Tuesday night. And the business sponsors loved it because they didn't have to take a whole day off of work. And so this year, we were just really humbled to see, Tennessee Titans, coming on in, and Mike Fisher, the former captain of the Predators, Vince Gill, Henry Cho, Darrell Waltrip, Larry Gallagher.
Wow.
To tell you the truth, I'm just kind of sitting back going, wow, God, look at who you're bringing. And it's a reminder to me daily, Chris, that, God's in charge, right? And the more that I let go and allow God to really guide and direct us, the more we're seeing things like this happen. And I don't get that every day. That's a challenge. Every day surrender it. Really hard for us as guys. But I can't even explain of just who God's bringing in for the event this year. It's humbling.
And then following that, you've got a wonderful retreat that's coming up in late April. Talk about what you've got going on there.
Yeah, for the last 12 years, we've gone down to Sylacauga, Alabama, the home of Gomer Pyle or Jim Neighbors, to Purcell Farms. I don't know if a lot of your listeners have played Farm Links yet down there, but I've been playing it for 12 years. We take 32 guys down for 18 holes on Friday, 36 on Saturday, 18 on Sunday. But at night, we go real deep into life and just talk from a faith perspective, how to be better husbands, how to be better dads, how to be better friends. And we use faith as the central point to that. And, a lot of guys used to go down for the golf, but now it seems like they come down for the life side of it. In fact, even one of the Tennessee Titans 3 years ago came down and committed his life to the Lord in that retreat. And the following year, he asked to be baptized. We baptized him in the pond of the 17th hole down at Farm Lakes. And I'm just telling you, for guys to watch that live and in person, it was pretty amazing.
Scott, talking about something that's pretty amazing, you did an interview with a mutual friend of ours, Dr. Bob Jones IV, and the interview you did on TV is it's so moving. I've watched it now probably half a dozen different times, but share what that was like. You walked the Atlanta Athletic Club at sunrise with Doc, and you get to hear about his faith and all of the things that have made a difference in his life. What was it like for you to spend that time with him?
Well, there's a deeper backstory to it, Chris, and I need to share with you and your listeners that on the way to interview Mr. Jones IV, we were really going there to get his grandfather's story. I mean, how can you not talk to the grandson of Bobby Jones and not get his grandfather's story? About 30 minutes before arriving, my 30-year-old videographer in the back seat of the truck said, "Hey, Scott, I think we should switch it up today." Can you imagine 30 minutes away from the interview, arriving at Atlanta Athletic Club? We're going to switch it up a little bit. I'm looking in the rearview mirror, go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Scott, I think everybody's coming to Bob to get his grandfather's story. What if we ask Mr. Jones his story today?" And I'm like, "We're going to do that." We got to the parking lot. You know, Mr. Jones pulls in, big smile, as you know, and he gets out and says, "Mr. Jones, thank you so much for your time today. I would like to get your story today." And a 60-year-old man in the parking lot of Atlanta Athletic Club, tears just started welling up in his eyes. And he said, "Scott, I've been waiting 60 years to tell my own story." And that's where it started. From that parking lot out to the 18th fairway of just finding out his story. And could you imagine living underneath the name of Bobby Jones? He couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. And his story goes is he hid himself in a bottle to drink away the pain for many, many years. And then he collided with his faith in Christ. And that truly set him free, that his identity wasn't any longer the grandson of Bobby Jones, but his identity was in Christ. And that set him free to then talk about his grandfather with great joy and great admiration. And just to be able to walk with him is one of those experiences, you're doing it, but when you kind of walk away from that day, you're going, "Lord, thank you so much for allowing me to stroll the fairways with Mr. Jones IV." It was amazing.
And Scott, I think one of the things that not enough people know about is the strong faith that a lot of the players out on the PGA Tour have. Guys like Zach Johnson and Ben Crane, Bubba Watson, Webb Simpson, just to name a few of them. Talk about how you're bringing golf together with your faith and having some of those guys actually a part of the things you're doing within his grip golf, and how you're marrying golf and faith.
Absolutely, Chris. You know, and for the last 10 years, we've really used In His Grip as a church model, which kind of made sense, right? We're Christian-based. We partner with churches, help them do golf tournaments, and we're allowed to, you know, in the last 10 years, host 216 In His Grip tournaments with local churches throughout the Southeast. In those 216 tournaments, we saw 18,000 men participate in them. And at the end, we always share a story to see, you know, the guys are at that point of their life where they need to commit their lives to the Lord. And we had 726 men do that. Very, very humbling to walk that experience out. But last year, we saw things changing where it's really challenging right now in the local churches to connect with men. You know, men's ministries are really hard to find where they're striving or thriving. So we just decided to make a turn last year and take the In His Grip ministry straight to the golf clubs, starting here in Nashville. And what we found is guys are longing to connect, that they've been living life on an island. So we actually start early in the mornings at different clubs throughout the city with a Bible study. Some guys stay and play 9, some stay and play 18. And then we set up different golf leagues at the courses, and then we brought it out to do different tournaments at the course. So that's our new model. It's a city model along with partnering with clubs within that city. And our dream now is to go into 100 cities in the next 10 years and just partner with different golf clubs to connect with the guys.
And Scott, speaking of Zach Johnson, I saw some pictures of you on the bag with Zach. What was it like? When did that happen, and what was it like?
Yeah, back in 2012, a guy came to me at our church and said, "Hey, did you see that Zach Johnson's auctioning off a caddy experience for the St. Jude, FedEx event in Memphis next week?" And I'm like, "Man, that'd be awesome. How good would that be?" And So I called charity to see, had he done this before? How much did it go for? And when they told me that, what it sold for at a previous event, I'm like, well, I probably won't be able to do that personally. And I went back to share that with a gentleman at the church, and he said, hey, Scott, why don't you come with me to the car? And he wrote me a very substantial check to say, go get it. You need to stroll the fairways with Zach. So I went over, Zach found out on Twitter, so he sent me, a direct message. Scott, I heard you won the auction item to caddy for me next week. It's supposed to be 100 degrees, in Memphis in June. So make sure you stay hydrated. We did this at another city, and the guy only lasted 8 holes. Well, I'm telling you what, I was 52 years old at the time, and there's nothing's going to hold me back from carrying the bag of a 2007 Masters champion. There's just no way. And so when we connected at the green, at the putting green, that Wednesday Pro-Am, he said, so you're the Twitter guy about In His Grip. I'm like, yeah, that's right, Zach. And he goes, well, where did In His Grip get started? And I said, well, it started in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And as you know what hometown of Zach is, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He goes, interesting. He goes, I think this is going to go pretty well today. And so I shared with him my testimony of how I came back from the 1997 Masters in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to my wife of 2 years, who said, I'm out of this marriage. I'm gone. And it was really a wake-up call for me back then. And the first 2 Bible verses God brought to me were Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord, with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him. He'll direct your path. So I shared that with Zach within the first 5 minutes. And he said, oh, man, this is going to be awesome. He goes, on the 18th green, I have something to show you. Don't let me forget. Well, it was one of those days where kind of an out-of-body experience like it was with Mr. Jones, because here's where we got paired with Tim Tebow and Coach Urban Meyer. That was in our same group.
Wow.
It was crazy. So walking those fairways, and the good thing is it's when Tebow was it was a verb, right? He was Tebowing down on his knee, quarterback for the Broncos. So everybody was following him, and it kind of gave Zach and I this time to just really connect at the heart level. Well, the 18th green came, and I'm like, hey, Zach, remember on the putting green, you had something to show me. He goes, Scott, you are not going to believe this. He pulls out of his bag a little coin, and it said trust on it. And I said, Zach, that is so cool. And he goes, flip it over. And I flipped the coin over, and it had Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 on it. He goes,
wow.
Those are my 2 life verses. My wife made this for me as a reminder of really what's important and where to put my trust. And that's how I really opened up our conversation 4 hours earlier. It was crazy, like crazy.
Wow. Yeah,
the Lord gave me,
that's an amazing
3 other years to connect with him. So I've caddied, I guess, 4 times for Zach, just on a practice round, and really become a great brother in Christ. He's just an awesome, awesome man of faith.
Got a couple of more before I let you go. And another picture I saw was of you and Arnold Palmer at the Arnold Palmer Invitational a while back. But boy, from 2016, talk about the time you got to spend with the King.
Yeah, I was down in Orlando and went over to the event and was just hanging out in the pro shop. And, of course, buying a lot of things. And I heard kind of in the background, Arnie's just, strolling through with his cart. And I just asked the guys there, I go, hey, I don't want to impose, but do you think if I got this flag, would Arnie be okay if I, try to get him to sign it? And they're like, absolutely. So, bought the flag with some other things and just went out, and he was in his golf cart talking to another gentleman. And what you see or seen through the years with Arnie, the spirit of humility and welcomeness and hospitality, it is so sincere and so authentic. As I waited, I just said, Mr. Palmer, I don't want to impose. He goes, come on over here, sir. What's your name? I mean, I probably got like 10 minutes with him, which was just incredible. And it was, again, one of those, I just call all these appointments you're hearing about, I just call them divine appointments. They weren't really part of the plan. Lord just allowed them to happen. And what a legacy, what an icon and just amazing experience for the king of golf.
And Scott, for all of us who are still waiting to get our very first hole-in-one, we're just north of about a 7-year anniversary of yours at the 9th hole over at Muscle Shoals. What was that like?
Well, it was number 2 for me, but it was definitely the most memorable. I went down there with Brett Kern, the punter of the Titans, and Adam Agee, a Christian artist. And on that same round, Brett Kern, on the first par 3, before that number 9, I think it was number 3 or 4, he hits the flag, and it was a back right pin where you could not see the green, but he hits the flag. He thinks it's down for his first hole-in-one. So he goes running to the green, gets to where he can see it, drops his knees, goes, no, it's like 6 inches away from a hole-in-one. And then 6 holes later, little 4-iron, 194, little baby draw, hits in the middle of the green, rolls to the back of the green. It's totally visible and drops in the hole. Kern was so mad.
I bet he was.
Of course, Lehman, 6 inches away, and then 6 holes later, I jar it. And so there's a pretty good story behind that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Finish of that story is Kern's birthday is February 17th, so that was his birthday trip.
Oh, to add insult to injury. Wow.
Oh, yeah. It was good.
God, for our listeners who want more information about the wonderful things you're doing or to attend one of the events that you have coming up, how can they find out more information about them?
Yeah, a couple ways. On the overall ministry, the best place to go is inhisgripgolf.com. That way you'll get, from all of our events and really what's going on through the ministry. Social media has been a really great vehicle or platform to connect with, and it's pretty much me. On Twitter, Scott N. Lehman or Scott Nelson Lehman, and Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Everybody's like, hey, who's doing your social media? Connect. I'm like, it's me. I love to connect with people. So, not that I know what I'm doing, but I just try to update, every day, and I definitely will respond if people reach out. So, those vehicles are just great to connect with me personally.
Well, Scott, it's always wonderful having you as part of the show. It's always very uplifting, very positive, and all the things you do are that. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. I hope you'll come back and do it again real soon.
My pleasure, Chris. I'm here to serve you, be available anytime.
Take care, Scott. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Appreciate it. Yeah, be blessed. Bye-bye.
See you, Scott. That is Scott Lehman, Lehman, inhisgripgolf.com. And you can find him on Twitter, like he says, Instagram, Facebook. Great stuff, very inspirational. Really enjoy having Scott as part of the show. And I highly recommend go check out that interview. It's on YouTube that Scott did with Bob Jones IV. It really is fantastic, and it's something that I continue to watch over and over again. All right, I've got my next guest, Travis Fulton, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Travis on the other side of these words about our friends over at 2 Under.